Happy holidays, everybody, and Tony here with my review of Mozart's La Nozze di Figaro, which I saw at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. The conductor was Ben Glassberg. The production was done by Götz Friedrich. The sets and costumes were done by Herbert Wernicke and Ogun Wernicke. The assistant director was Gelinde Perkowski, and the chorus master was Thomas Richter. Götz Friedrich, if you've been watching my videos revolving around his productions for a long time, has been one of my favorite opera directors of all time, next to Franco Zeffirelli and Jean-Pierre Ponel, because I really love his way of paying attention to the libretto, as well as showing respect for said librettos, whether it is with his film versions of Elektra or Salome, or even a lot of the productions that he has done at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. I definitely find Herr Friedrich absolutely amazing, and his production of Le Nozze di Figaro by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart is no exception, which is also bolstered by such a promising and seemingly excellent cast. And going into Götz Friedrich's production of Le Nozze di Figaro at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, I definitely love it so much. I love that this is also one of the traditional productions, helped with a lot of intricacy, a lot of beauty about it, and on top of that, great visual aids, specifically in terms of having a mural of ancient Roman/Greek soldiers dying in battle when Figaro sings Non più andrai tu cherubino, or even when the Count Almaviva has a portrait hall of a lot of the great leaders that he tries to emulate in his aria Vedrò mentre io sospiro, and which also starts off with the recitative Hai già vinta la causa. And I also love all of the uses of flowers, especially when it comes to being part of the stage decor, or even the later parts of the opera where all of the couples, whether it's Figaro and Susanna, Count and Countess Almaviva, Bartolo and Marcellina, and Cherubino and Barbarina are together, as well as all of the flower girls. It's just absolutely beautiful, and Herr Friedrich really knew how to make this production come to life. Yes, it may not be as overly elegant as Jean-Pierre Ponel's production of Le Nozze di Figaro, or as overly intricate as anything offered by Franco Zeffirelli, or even a lot of the opera directors who specialize in intricacy, detail, and elegance. But Götz Friedrich really knew how to pay attention to the text, and it's also evident in all of the scenery, the costumes, and just how much his team was able to make all of that come to life. So I really have to give it to the late, great Götz Friedrich for making this particular production of Le Nozze di Figaro by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart totally memorable, and something that still continues to work to this very day, all thanks to its beautiful costumes, its really great use of lighting, as well as thorough respect to the text and all of the music that Mozart had to offer. And now we get to the singers, starting off with Porrick Rowan as Figaro. He definitely continued to grow so handsomely as a singing actor. His voice became a lot more flawless throughout the registers. There was not a sign of woofiness or throatiness that I found with Mr. Rowan, and his voice continues to grow in a lot more vocal freedom that I was totally in for it. I should know because I have seen him as Papageno a month ago. He has done excellently in the role. I've also seen him as Pietro 2 years ago, also at the Deutsche Oper Berlin from Verdi's Simon Boccanegra, and it's so amazing to see him grow from strength to strength, and his performance as Figaro is clearly an indicator. He also brimmed so handsomely with charisma and virility that I was at the edge of my seat every time he opened his mouth to sing, and every time he just let his voice out with pure abandon and pure handsomeness. So I have to salute Porrick Rowan for such an amazing job as Figaro, all thanks to his virile charisma as well as his handsomely toned bass baritone slash natural baritone voice. In fact, he is totally up there with some of my favorite Figaros of all time, including Erich Kuntz, John Brownlee, and Nicola Rossi Lemony, all thanks to his vocal resonance. Therefore, bravo to Porrick Rowan for such an excellent job as Figaro. Equally as excellent was Nina Soldovnikova as Susanna. I have seen her career grow from strength to strength from the first time I caught her as Pamina from the Zauberflöte, also at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. Her voice continues to grow in opulence, as well as amazing coordination from bottom to top. In fact, her chest tones became a lot more evident and a lot fuller, because one of the Achilles heels Miss Solodovnikova had back then was that her chest tones tended to be inconsistent. I'm glad that Nina Solodovnikova was able to take full advantage of those chest tones and really create such an amazing effect, all thanks to how she was able to coordinate head voice and chest voice and grow as a superb singing actress. Her trademark charisma is still amazing as always, and she continues to seriously steal the show in every performance that she is in. And this is also thanks to her sheer elegance, sheer beauty, and that wonderfully creamy timbre that she has. In fact, her full tone voice is something that I love in many Susannas. My personal favorite ones include Mafalda Favero, Licia Albanese, Maria Sciaboltori, Annalisa Rothenberger, Hilde Guden, Rosanna Carteri, and Mirella Freni, as well as Elisabeth Söderström. The naturally full lyric sopranos who sang Susanna are definitely the ones I've always admired and the ones I've always preferred the most, and Nina Solodovnikova sold it so convincingly, and I was absolutely charmed. And I do hope that she continues to develop her chest tones and really take fuller advantage of her coordinated chest tones so that her voice continues to remain healthy and a whole lot rounder, especially in the middle and lower registers. But when all is said and done, Nina Soldovnikova shone like the brightest of stars as Susanna. Speaking of shining stars, Thomas Lehmann continues to not only shine like the brightest of stars, but I'd also argue like the most brilliant of planets. I continue to admire everything that Thomas Lehmann has to offer as one of the most superb cavalier baritones slash dramatic baritones of today, and his voice continues to grow in richness, virility, and strength. He's been taking on a lot of the dramatic roles these days, and his voice has continued to grow and really resonate a lot more in pure vocal freedom, that I continue to be astounded, astonished in the most exciting way possible, and elated. Yes, I might prefer some darker sounding voices as Count Almaviva, such as those found in Heinz Rehfuss or George London or Kim Borg or Franco Calabrese, or even Jon Forzel, as well as the rounder baritones found in Mariano Stabile, and lest I forget about Hans Hotter. And I believe that Herman Ude also sang the Count Almaviva. Basically, I do prefer more of bass baritones in the role, but regardless, I still believe that Thomas Lehmann was thoroughly handsome, thoroughly brilliant, and thoroughly virile. That exciting virility that he continues to produce remains in wonderful evidence, and he continues to soar like the boldest of eagles all throughout the orchestra, and he continues to be such an engaging singing actor. So I salute Thomas Lehmann with a lot of honor, a lot of dignity, and a whole lot of craftsmanship, thus showing that he is also one of the finest to ever tackle the role of Count Almaviva. Florina Stucchi continues to have that silvery quality that I've always admired about her in her natural lyric soprano voice that is absolutely pleasing at the top, but whenever she had a go at some of her middle notes and some of her chest tones, there were occasions where she sounded insecure. There were occasions where she sounded rather shaky. And there were also occasions where I was quite fearful for how she was going to last in certain notes. But she was still an incredibly intrepid singing actress who provided Countess Almaviva with dignity, beauty, nobility, and elegance. She continues to convince me as a singing actress, and what was quite a contributing factor to her voice having a little bit of wobbles in certain areas and some areas where she sounded shaky is her recent tackling of the heavier roles, i.e. Chrysothemis, Zenta, and even an excerpt of Turandot back in September, which really caught me off guard because Florina Stucchi is not a legitimate dramatic soprano. She is more of a lyric soprano with a naturally silvery lyrical edge to her voice that is really pleasant to the ear, especially when she lunches at her top notes. She has that really nice silvery quality akin to Gundula Janowitz or even Lisa della Casa that I would have loved to see and hear her use her advantage, which she still does, but by adding in the heavier roles like Chrysothemis and Zenta, she's kind of doing herself a big disservice, and I still hope that she continues to remain cognizant of her choice of repertoire. That is a naturally silvery lyric soprano voice that I don't want to hear wasted anytime soon, but she still manages to sing Countess Almaviva's music really well and with pure involvement. One could ask for chestier voices found in Elisabeth Redberg, Elisabeth Grömer, Margarete Peschemacher, Heather Harper, Leila Gencher, or Lisa de la Casa, and lest I forget about Julia Varabi, who is one of my favorites in this role, and even to some extent Anna Tomova-Sinto, who is a natural full lyric soprano and not that much of a big spinto voice. But regardless, I still think that Florina Stucchi was in her element singing these Mozart lyric soprano roles, especially when it's coupled with sufficient elegance and charm and a whole lot of feminine beauty, which she was still able to muster so exceedingly well. Jared Wehrlein managed to be absolutely fine and handsome as Don Bartolo, all thanks to his bass baritone voice, and he also had such a fine and handsome stage presence that I commend him for what he was able to accomplish as Don Bartolo. One could ask for a rounder, richer, darker voice found in, let's say, Michael Langdon or Kurt Böhme or Gottlob Frick. But I still have to salute Jared Wehrlein for his tall, handsome, and really fine stage presence, coupled with his round and fine bass baritone voice, which he was able to take full advantage of. Elisa Pfenda really surprised me with how chesty, rich, round, and really gorgeous her mezzo-soprano slash borderline contralto voice really was. I did not expect her to sound so healthy as well as absolutely amazing, because that is a thoroughly developed voice right there that can manage to sing not only Marcellina from Nozze di Figaro, but also Mistress Quickly, or Herodias from Salome, Fricka from Die Walküre, Ealda from Das Rheingold, the First Snorn from Götterdämmerung, the Marquise de Birkenfeld from La Fille de Régiment, or even Gaia from Daphne, and even to some extent Clytemnestra from Electra. I would definitely love to hear and see her in those roles, because Elisa Pfenda really has the chestiness and that really wonderfully developed voice to tackle these mature sounding roles. That is a voice right there that calls for a lot of amazing singing and a whole lot of vocal and theatrical abandon, almost akin to Elisabeth Högen, Regina Resnick, and Tatiana Troyanos later in her career, and even Patricia Johnson. In fact, Elisa Pfenda's voice kind of reminds me of an amalgamation of Elisabeth Högen and her mature sounding voice, and Regina Resnick's fruitier sounding voice, and combine with that slight youthfulness found in Patricia Johnson, and you have someone who has managed to serve Marcellina's music so amazingly, and that is just how much Elisa Pfenda won me over as Marcellina. Then we have Burkhard Ulrich as Don Basilio, who was able to be so superb as a character tenor, and he was able to act and sing the role extremely well. Same goes for Jörg Schörner as Don Curzio, another superb character tenor who took advantage of his character tenor voice and managed to steal the show as Don Curzio. Paul Mignon Roh as a very resonant Antonio was also just as amazing and just as vocally awesome in this role. Martina Baroni as Cherubino was brilliant and absolutely charming. She really knew how to act the role extremely well. She also had pretty good coordinated chest tones and good use of head voice. However, it does say something when natural sopranos who sang Cherubino, such as Sena Jurinat or Susanne Danko or Angela Kolniak or Luisa Hellitzgruber, or even Teresa Stratas, had way more coordinated chest tones, let alone better chest tones than Martina Baroni has. And that's what I would love to hear Martina Baroni develop in. Her chest tones as well as her coordinated chest tones, so that her voice will continue to remain healthy throughout all the registers. When all is said and done, Martina Baroni was thoroughly charismatic and thoroughly charming as Cherubino. Hye-Young Moon was just as charismatic, just as charming, and just as lovable as Barbarina. I've always associated her with a lot of the high-flying coloratura soprano roles like the Queen of the Night or Fiacchermeli, or her recent engagements as Gilda from Rigoletto. libretto, as well as a lot of the roles that she has been seeing these days designated for her lyric coloratura soprano voice. But witnessing her as Barbarina was an absolute treat because she was able to inject this role with lovability, charisma, charm, and it was also helped by her trademark lyric coloratura soprano voice that just shone and radiated and managed to show a great deal of lovely lyricism, thus making Hye-Young totally winsome as Barbarina. There was also some wonderful collaborations found in Yuki Tamai and Asahi Wada as the two country girls, all thanks to their lovely soprano voices, and the fortepiano playing done by Pauli Jemse was also just as amazing. So overall, the singing was thoroughly astounding from everybody. From the two main couples found in Thomas Lehmann as the Count Almaviva, Friedrich Stucki as the Countess Almaviva, Porek Rowan as Figaro, and Nina Solodovnikova as Susanna, to the accompanying couples of Jared Wehrlein as Bartolo, Elisa Fenda as Marcellina, as well as Martina Baroni as Cherubino and Hye-Young as Barbarina, to a lot of the amazing supporting actors found in Burkhard Ulrich as Don Basilio, Jörg Schörner as Don Curzio, and Paul Mingyun-Ro as Antonio. Everybody managed to be a star in their own special way. They were able to just rock it tonight in their singing capabilities. And I dare not forget about Yuki Tamai and Asahi Wada, who were able to do so magnificently as the two country girls. Everybody was a star all the way through, and it was also helped by Ben Glassberg's really exciting conducting. Yes, there were times that he kind of did go a little bit tough on the brass and percussion, but at least he kept everybody together. Sure, I would have wanted a lot more nuance found in the great conductors such as Arturo Toscanini or Otto Klemperer or Herbert von Karajan or Karl Böhm, but at least with Ben Glassberg, he managed to keep the orchestra excited as well as vivacious all the way through. And the chorus and the orchestra of the Deutsche Oper Berlin continue to show and exercise abundant excellence. In terms of Götz Friedrich's production of Le Nozze di Figaro at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, it's visually stunning in its own special way, especially when it's bolstered by some really exceptional singers, namely Porek Rowan as Figaro, Nina Solodovnikova as Susanna, Thomas Lehmann as Count Almaviva, and Frina Stucki as the Countess Almaviva. They were absolutely excellent in their own special ways. They were able to carry the weight of the singing all the way through, and this was also helped by such equally amazing performances found in Jared Wehrlein, Elisa Fenda, Martina Baroni, Hye-Young, as well as Burkhard Ulrich, Jörg Schörner, and Paul Mingyun-Ro, as well as Asahi Wada and Yuki Tamai. Everybody was a star tonight, and they all managed to pull through exceedingly well. And for those of you who caught Götz Friedrich's production of Le Nozze di Figaro at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, what'd you think of it? Did you feel like Götz Friedrich's vision was absolutely brilliant in its own special way? Was there a moment that you really loved from this production? Did you also love the singing, whether it was from Porek Rowan or Nina Solodovnikova or Thomas Lehmann or Frida Stucki? Was there another singer who stole their thunder? Or did you feel like everything was not to your liking? Please let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for my review of Mozart's Le Nozze di Figaro at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. Tune in tomorrow for my review of Giordano Sforza, also at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, but this time starring Rodrigo Garul as Loris Ipanov. So until then, happy holidays, everybody.